Good afternoon, everyone. We are live today at Sakrawal Hospital, Bangalore. We have with us our expert, Dr. Amritesh TM, gastroenterologist. Welcome, doctor. Today we will be discussing details about irritable bowel syndrome, or it is called as IBS. So here are a few questions from our viewers, doctor.
Yes.
What is irritable bowel syndrome?
See, irritable bowel syndrome is a disease characterized by abdominal pain or discomfort associated with disturbed defecatory habits.
Okay.
In short, it is an irritable bowel syndrome, IBS.
What are the symptoms of IBS?
See, the predominant symptoms in them will be abdominal pain or discomfort. This can be associated with, this pain can either get aggravated or relieved after passing motion, or sometimes this may be associated with increased frequency of motion or decreased frequency of motion, or it can be associated with change in the consistency of the motion, starting from pellet-like hard stools to extremely watery motion. These are the common symptoms what we notice in irritable bowel syndrome patients. Apart from that, these classical examples of symptoms, few patients may also present with abdominal distension or bloating feeling alone. There are certain extra-intestinal symptoms also which may be seen in irritable bowel syndrome. Example, migraine. Headache can be one of the manifestation of irritable bowel syndrome. Can be component of irritable bowel syndrome. Or back pain or muscle pains. We call it as fibromyalgia, where multiple areas of the body patient pain will be there in the patient. Some people present with increased urinary frequency also, or pelvic pain, some epigastric pain, temporomandibular joint pain can be there, and some patients can also have sexual dysfunction as a part of irritable bowel syndrome. These are the different manifestations of irritable bowel syndrome.
Okay. Who is more likely to develop IBS? Is it more in male or female?
See, if you look into the worldwide literature, it is the females who get affected more than males. But in Indian study, which was done 8 to 10 years back, it says that in India, males are having irritable bowel syndrome cases than compared to females because of various reasons.
Okay. So how do we diagnose this IBS?
See, irritable bowel syndrome can be diagnosed by good, clinical history from the patient, good counseling sessions with the patients, consultation sessions will give the diagnosis of irritable bowel syndrome. There is no need for any extra investigations or invasive modalities to diagnose this irritable bowel syndrome. But if suppose in the history, if there are some red flag signs, then we may ask for certain investigations. Red flag signs in the sense, if somebody is aged above 50 years and above presenting with irritable bowel syndrome like symptoms, then we will be little alert to label him as IBS. We may not label him as IBS until we do certain investigations and exclude all other organic diseases. Similarly, if the patient is also having blood in the motion, then we have to rule out certain other diseases than labeling the patient as IBS. With a significant weight loss or progressive diarrhea, difficulty swallowing the food, or recurrent vomiting, or somebody is getting up from the night to pass motion, or getting up from the sleep because of the abdominal pain. In these patients, we should take precautions to rule out the organic disease before labeling the patient as irritable bowel syndrome.
Okay. And what food should people with IBS avoid or prefer?
See, there is no standard dietary chart for irritable bowel syndrome. But small percentage of the patients have responded to gluten-free diet. See, gluten is rich in wheat products. If we eliminate wheat products, some of the patients have responded to this diet. Similarly, if we remove lactose, that is milk and milk products from the diet, again, small percentage of the patients with irritable bowel syndrome have responded to this milk elimination or lactose elimination from the diet. But this is not a universal diet chart. What I am trying to say is only small percentage of the patient responds to this kind of dietary changes, not all. And also removing the sorbitol or fructose, which are predominantly present in certain fruits. If we eliminate this diet, they may respond to the irritable treatment. Similarly, there is one new concept called as FODMAP diet. FODMAP means fermented oligosaccharide, disaccharide, monosaccharide, and polyols in the diet. If any diet is rich in these components, then that will cause more fermentation products in the intestine and also more osmotic load in the intestine, which may cause pain or diarrhea or constipation to the patient. So the concept is to keep the low FODMAP diet in the diet. In the low FODMAP diet, I will give an example. For example, if you take grains, here we offer more of rice, oat, and millet based treatment to the patient, and exclude wheat, barley, muffins, pasta, noodles kind of items from their diet.
Okay.
And among the fruits, we want to exclude mango. And for your surprise, it may be, even apple or watermelon. That has to be excluded from the diet, and include more of banana, orange, kiwi, pineapple, pomegranate. These are good for the gut.
Okay.
And coming to the vegetables, we want to exclude peas and even potato, cabbage, cauliflower from their diet. And other vegetables in general can be allowed to be taken.
Okay. And what are the most common precipitating causes of IBS?
See, if somebody is suffering from bacterial gastroenteritis or viral gastroenteritis or certain parasite infestations like Giardia, Trichinella, if the diarrhea is lasting for more than 3 weeks, these patients can develop IBS. This is called as post-infectious irritable bowel syndrome.
Okay.
And those patients who are also having psychological disorders, mood disorders, depression, anxiety, or stressful environment, these patients can suffer from irritable bowel syndrome.
Okay.
In other group like childhood, maybe stressful childhood life, they may have developed irritable bowel syndrome during their adulthood. Or if family members are having irritable bowel syndrome, especially parents or siblings are having irritable bowel syndrome, then the child can also develop IBS.
Okay.
And in other scenarios, like because of various other illnesses, if the patient is taking multiple antibiotics many times, then they may be predisposed for irritable bowel syndrome. If there is imbalance in the normal gut flora within the intestine, it may cause slight inflammation in the intestines and causes irritable bowel syndrome.
Okay. Can the IBS go permanently? Is there any solution?
There is no permanent cure to the irritable bowel syndrome. There are no medications to modify the disease as such, but we have the medications to address the symptoms. And good counseling sessions with the psychiatrist also will help in eliminating this irritable bowel syndrome symptoms.
Okay. So is IBS a risk factor for other serious diseases?
This is a good question. See, many of these irritable bowel syndrome patients will come with anxiety that, are we predisposed for any intestinal cancers because of these symptoms?
Okay.
This is a myth actually. There was a large study which says that when the irritable bowel syndrome patients were followed for nearly 29 to 30 years, it was found that these patients are not having any extra risk compared to the general population in the development of any colorectal cancers, thyroid disorders, inflammatory bowel disease, or lactose intolerance. So in general, the risk is equal to that of general population. There is no additional risk in IBS patients.
Okay. So what are the common drugs which is used to treat this IBS, doctor?
See, depending on the type of predominant symptom engines, for example, if it is constipation, predominant irritable bowel syndrome, we offer them certain fiber supplementation like isabugolol powder or polyethylene glycol. These things to add on to the osmotic bulk to the stools, and that will also eliminate the symptoms. If somebody is not responding to this kind of minor fiber supplements and all, then we may give some medications to improve the constipation. We may give some propylocloride kind of medications, lubiprostone kind of medications to decrease the constipation. If on the other hand, if somebody is presenting with diarrhea as a predominant irritable bowel syndrome symptom, then we may offer them anti-motility agents like loperamide initially. If they are not responding to this, we may give a short course of intestinal antibiotic, 2 weeks course of rifaximin we will give. And even if they are not responding to that, we may give certain other medications called as ramosetron. These are called as 5-HT3 antagonists. Ramosetron medications to decrease the bowel frequencies. And if there is additional psychiatric component is also involved here, we may use certain tricyclic antidepressant medications, SSRIs we may use in them. If pain is the major symptom, then we may use dicyclomine medicines to decrease the spasms in the intestine. Sometimes, I need to tell you, if the symptoms are extreme, where our routine medications are not helping them, we may take the help of the psychiatrist, where they offer them cognitive behavior therapy, and thereby the symptoms may get decreased.
With the therapy. All right. Thank you, doctor. It was indeed a very informative session. And if you have any further questions, you can write to us in our comment section, and